Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started and call to order the regular Board of Education meeting for Monday, April 30th, 2018. A roll call, please.
Ms. Hyman? Here. Ms. Meyer? Here. Ms. Pick? Here. Ms. Lobby? Here. Mr. Small? Mr. Olewski? Here. Ms. Culver?
Here. And could everyone seated at the table please identify themselves?
Christopher Digno, Superintendent.
Sandra Reguin, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Romina Isaac, Executive Secretary.
Alim Haji, Assistant Superintendent of Finance.
Tiffany Shabazz, Director of Student Support Services.
Tom Krieger, Director of Human Resources.
John Fury, Director of Operations.
Catherine Anderson, Principal at Deerfield.
Elizabeth Robertson, Principal of Highland Park.
Christine Gonzalez, Director of Communications and Instructional Technology.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We've got quite a crowd here today. We'd like to begin this evening's Board of Education meeting with a statement addressing our last Board of Education meeting, specifically the interactions between board members and public comments that were made. We recognize that the last meeting was contentious and might have upset members of the District 113 community. As a Board of Education, we welcome all citizens' comments, and we believe all members of District 113 community are entitled to their thoughts and their opinions. I also wanted to share that at our next board meeting on May 14th will be our reorganization meeting. So we will be, sorry, well, maybe that's too far now. If any board members are interested in a one-year term for president or vice president, feel free to submit a letter, an explanation of intention. That will be given to Romina and included in our next packet. So the next board meeting will be doing that vote. Okay, and with that, we'll do approval of our regular board meeting agenda. So, a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, so now we welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration. Pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230, please identify yourself and, if applicable, state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 3 minutes per comment period. We'll do our best to address your questions during the relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions, or for questions that require additional response time, we'll follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. And in order to respect everyone's time, we will be adhering to the 3-minute policy. I do apologize the last time. In my time as president, I've never had to cut anyone off. It's always kind of stayed in that 3-minute parameter. There's a lot of people here. I'm not sure how many are actually coming forward to speak. But we will try to really respect the 3 minutes. So Lizzie has offered to kind of keep track and just give you a little bit of a warning when you're getting close to the 1 minute remaining in your time period. So I just ask that if you're able to respect the 3 minutes, we very much want to hear what you have to say. We appreciate you coming forward, addressing the board, addressing the administration, and addressing the community. So we absolutely encourage your comments, but we really would like to stick with our 3-minute policy. So having said that, are there any citizens' comments?
Hello, my name is Don McCord, and I'm a school counselor at HPHS. I've been there now for 17 years, and I bleed blue. While I've not been able to attend our recent board meetings in the physical sense, I've watched attentively through video as my colleagues have expressed their concern about our adherence to the tenets of our strategic plan. I too must share some concerns. Core belief 1, we believe in developing the potential of all students and offering supports to help them realize this potential. In August of 2017, the larger District 113 community became aware of a reported incident involving an African-American student at Deerfield High School. She was the target of racist language depicted in pictures on social media. As similar incidents occurred at Highland Park, a letter was sent out in January to the District 113 community with assurances that we would address these concerns at all school assemblies at both Deerfield and at Highland Park. It is now the eve of May, and to my knowledge, no assembly has taken place at Deerfield. I want to include this fact as reported by our deans at HPHS, that since our assembly, there's been a decrease in hate speech referrals. There's a young lady in a community of children that need to feel safe. The absence of the newly departed equity coordinator at DHS should not prevent this from happening. It is a shame that all of the students at DHS will have missed out on a valuable, teachable moment in our ever-changing times. Another fact that is inconsistent with core belief 1 is that test day options are now being reduced at both Deerfield and at Highland Park. Now students will have to travel further to neighboring schools in order to take standardized tests. Who does this impact most? Our low-income students and our children of color. Core belief 2, that we will hire, support, and retain a dedicated and exceptional staff. It was at the last board meeting that a young man publicly acknowledged Tom Vogelsang, our multimedia department chair and English teacher at HPHS, as his inspiration for wanting to enter into the world of education. And specifically, he wants to come back home to HPHS to teach. It is an accolade that is deservedly so, and a recognition that any educator hopes to achieve before he or she retires. The truth is, we have many Mr. and Mrs. Vogelsangs walking around both of our high school buildings. However, I must lament that many of our teachers at HPHS are now receiving overtures from other school districts. This is not conjecture. This is insider information. This is a fact. As someone who has worked in this school district and watched many of our upper administration and our HPHS administrators ascend to their current positions, I'm baffled and perplexed why all of them have left or are leaving to make lateral moves. I know they love this high school and our district as much as I do, which is why I decided to remain here after contemplating leaving myself after a very difficult year. I love working with our students and the wonderful support that we get from our parents. But it is the people that I work next to that truly makes the difference as well. I've always thought of us as one of the premier high school districts in the state, if not the nation. I'm standing here today in an effort to preserve that. And let me be clear, I'm not afraid of change. But when so much change creates instability and threatens what is excellent about this district, then it is time that we look in the mirror and ask ourselves some critical questions.
Thank you.
My name is Jamie Stazarowski. I am the DEA Vice President at DHS. In my role as a member of the Executive Board, I am also charged with setting up and compiling the results of the climate survey, which you just received. The survey is open for approximately 1 month. After the survey closes, several Executive Board members and I comb through the comments and redact them to try to maintain the anonymity of the respondents, redacting names, titles, or departments, all while trying to keep the integrity of the comment so the meaning is not lost. As you may remember, the climate survey is broken into 2 parts, each delivered every other year. This year's climate survey collected data and comments regarding use of time, as well as district, school, department, and DEA leadership. The survey was first done 4 years ago. This year had the most responses ever, with 276 responses, which is over 85% of our DEA membership. I have watched my colleagues from both schools speak at citizen comments at board meetings and share their concerns about the state of the district. After reading through the climate survey data and comments, the sentiments that have been shared at board meetings are clearly more widespread, spanning both Deerfield High School and Highland Park High School. Given that over 85% of our DEA membership responded to this survey, this data is a thorough and accurate representation of our membership's concerns. I shared the results of the climate survey by email with all the staff at both schools and the district administration. Marty Eskar, DEA president, shared it electronically with the Board of Education today. We wanted you to have a hard copy. It's 76 pages long. The last time this part of the survey was done in 2016, DEA Executive Board members, some district administrators, and 2 Board of Education members sat down together to discuss the major themes from the climate survey. You may remember the mentoring program began as a result of these discussions. DEA Executive Board would like to continue this practice of meeting to discuss the major themes from the survey so that we may work together to address our concerns and brainstorm ways we can make changes to improve our morale. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Johnson. I teach in the physical education department at Highland Park, and I'm also a Deerfield resident. My wife Susan and I have lived in Deerfield our entire lives. We both graduated from Deerfield High School, and our 3 daughters have done the same. It has been our good fortune that we've also been able to teach in this district for a number of years. Susan is now in her first year of retirement after teaching here at Deerfield High School for 25 years. I am currently finishing my 22nd year teaching and coaching at Highland Park. We are both very proud to be part of the District 113 family. So it saddens us that I stand in front of you tonight and state that we, District 113, have a major problem. We have lost and continue to lose veteran District 113 invested teachers. Last year, Eileen McMahon, assistant principal at Highland Park, left to become an assistant principal at Maine West. Eileen was the rookie of the group, having been in Highland Park for only 5 years. Last year, Casey Wright, assistant principal at Highland Park, left to become an assistant principal at Glenbrook South. Casey had been at Highland Park for close to 15 years. Last year, Patrick Sasson, assistant principal at Highland Park, left to become an assistant principal at Lake Forest. Patrick was at Highland Park for 20 years. He started as a teacher's aide in the special ed department. And last year, Tom Kalanis, our principal at Highland Park, left to become the principal at Libertyville High School. Tom had been at Highland Park High School for 21 years. Tom started in the social studies department, worked his way up to assistant principal, and then principal. He and his family reside in Highland Park. His son, Jet, is a junior this year at Highland Park and had one of the leads in our recent theater production of Peter and the Starcatcher. It was awesome to see Tom as the proud father watching his son perform. Our most recent loss is Andy Butler. This is a little hard for me on this one, because Andy's been my boss for about the last 10 years. Andy's been at Highland Park for 19 years. He's been a teacher and a coach, our athletic trainer, our athletic director, and currently our PE department chair. He is leaving us to become the head of the Kinetic Wellness Department at New Trier. He also lives in Highland Park. His daughters, Jillian and Avery, both started their District 113 education at Deer Park Teaching and Learning Center, the district's child care center housed here at Deerfield. Jillian is now a sophomore in Highland Park. She's enrolled in the dual language program, she's an all-conference cross-country runner, and she's a member of our newly crowned Lake County Champions girls track team. She is coached by her father. Avery, her younger sister, is in 8th grade and ready to join us at Highland Park next year, but their father will not be there. These are all seasoned veteran teachers that have transitioned through building level as well as district level administrative changes. They have all experienced and weathered the storms that come with change. They are all professionals that were and are still truly invested in District 113. Some even choosing to raise their families here, knowing that the quality of the education their children would receive is better than none. I've had the privilege of watching them grow as professionals while I've watched their families grow at the same time. Susan always said that she loved having our girls at DHS while she taught there, and I know that Tom and Andy felt and feel the same way. So that raises the question, what has caused the climate in District 113 to change so drastically in the past 3 years that these experienced, lifelong District 113 educators were willing to make lateral moves to leave this district? As the District 113 teachers left, a number of them, as well as several of the administrators that retired from our district office, sat down with Tony Luisi from the district's law firm and gave exit interviews. I realized at the end of the school year last year was fast-paced and tension-filled. Also, several of you weren't on the board at that time, and you may not have seen Mr. Luisi's report. So I ask that you take the time now to revisit those interviews with fresh eyes and open minds. I ask that you read them on your own and draw your own conclusions before you come together and talk about what you read. My hope is that you are willing to hear what they had to say. I also have a document written by Dr. Hudson at the end of last year. It was supposed to be sent off to the board once she had officially retired from the district, but she's not sure that whomever was supposed to complete that test did so, or that test did so. So if it's okay with you, I would like to deliver that document to you now.
It's well. So again, I just want to remind everyone of the 3-minute. Oh, okay, thank you. If we can just try to stick to that. Again, we really want to hear what everyone says. There's a lot of people here speaking. So if we can...
I've been instructed as the timer, and I'm trying really hard to be respectful of everyone, so please don't think I'm being rude, but I'm going to just speak in the microphone and say 1 minute remaining, but I'm going to do it for everybody, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Margie Bordeaux, and I'm a lifelong resident of Highland Park. I graduated from HPHS in 1985 and currently have a daughter who's a freshman at Highland Park and a son who will be here soon. I also worked in Deerfield District 109 for 11 years as a school social worker and know firsthand how a positive school atmosphere can directly impact the education of students. I always knew that when I got married and had kids, I wanted to live in Highland Park. I have 3 sisters who all felt the same way, and amongst us we have 11 children who are either HPHS alums, current students, or future students. And in the halls of Highland Park High School, there are hundreds and hundreds of second and third generation students because of the outstanding schools and the wonderful community. Until very recently, I was not aware of the current issues at Highland Park High School. I knew it was a huge loss when Brad Swanson left, and another huge loss when Tom Fulentis left, but I was unaware that these departures were simply symptoms of a much bigger problem. In the past couple of weeks, I have learned that not only are teachers and administrators choosing to leave our district, but the superintendent and board are aware of this and idly standing by. I have talked to several people who have asked the board and superintendent why staff members are leaving and what has happened to the culture of the high school, yet no answers have been provided. The Board of Education is supposed to represent the community and work for whatever is the best interest of our children. The administrators have been hired to provide our children with the best possible teachers and education. So why is nothing being done to get to the bottom of this issue? The HPHS staff works too hard and gives too much to be taken for granted. Talented teachers are unhappy and are seeking jobs in other districts. As administrators and board members, not only should you want to know why, but it's your responsibility to know why. If you're doing something to remedy this issue, then why are community members not aware of this and sending emails that are not getting a response? I would like to know when and how this problem is going to be addressed. I hope the answer is nothing short of immediately for the good of our schools, our children, and our community. Thank you.
My name is Francie Dickman. My daughters are sophomores at Highland Park High School. We moved here from Wilmette specifically because I wanted my kids to attend Highland Park High School, because I attended Highland Park High School. I also attended college and graduate school, yet the teachers that I had at Highland Park High School were the best teachers I'd have. I moved back here so my daughters could have teachers like these, and so they too could have the unique privilege of experiencing Highland Park High School, which has always been warm. It is welcoming, it encourages self-expression, it teaches you to think critically, to be open-minded, and to be tolerant. These are the qualities that make our school special, and yet it is this atmosphere and these qualities, in addition to obviously the teachers themselves, that we seem to be at risk of losing. I've been a member of the HPHS PTO for 2 years. I was also the PTA president at Wayne Thomas before that, and while I cannot talk educational shop at all, I do know this, that lack of attendance at meetings means everything is running smoothly. Clearly, you all have got a problem. Every school community, I also know, is comprised of factions. Parents, teachers, kids, and factions within these factions. And it's the job of the administration to listen to communicate clearly and openly to respond to, and most importantly, to appease and protect their teachers. Given that basically all factions, from what I understand, are frustrated and unhappy, it is obvious that this administration is not the right team for this job. The lack of communication, the lack of transparency and responsiveness to teachers, parents, and students alike seems to be contributing to the erosion of the warm, supportive, and open atmosphere that makes Highland Park High School unique. It was working for decades. Our school was working. I don't know who decided to mess with it or why, but y'all better get serious about fixing it before we lose any more of our fabulous teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. My husband always tells me not to ad-lib. That's why he tells me not to do that. I'm Kathleen Case. I teach at Highland Park High School. My husband is a teacher at Highland Park High School. My children went to Deerfield High School. And I need to say that this is the only school I've ever taught at full-time in my entire career. And I'm going to say something out loud. My colleagues know I never say out loud that I have been in this district for 30 plus years. I would almost bet I outlived most of them. I've been fortunate to work and to raise my children in this district. I have powerful memories of many of my former students and immense gratitude to many of my colleagues on both sides of the highway. My children attended DHS and they were challenged by intellectual, compassionate teachers. For the majority of my career, I have proudly shared that I work at District 113. As many have shared in this meeting through the DEA climate survey and on community social media sites, the culture at Highland Park and maybe the whole district has shifted, and not in a positive way, for the hardworking teachers, counselors, and support staff who, despite feeling devalued, ignored, and disrespected, come to school each and every day and work as humanly as possible to meet the demands of this community who has for so long supported our work. While change can be invigorating and inspiring and motivating, the changes to District 113 speak to a lack of shared values and practices between Park Avenue and Highland Park. And I don't speak for Deerfield because I don't work here, but I'm sensing a little bit of that here as well. I am not suggesting that all systems should remain as they were 5, 10, and 25 years ago, but changes that dismiss a culture that nurtured students and respected and relied on the expertise of teachers is not progress. I now work in a building where my professional input is seldom sought outside of my department, and consequently, I no longer know my school nor all of my colleagues, and that is not good for students. I work in a community where a small but vocal, aggressive parent group have sought to undermine an inclusive curriculum that values the identities and experiences of all students. I've seen class sizes grow and the needs of children expand, and the demands that those children need expand to levels that are not humanly possible to deal with every day as individual teachers. We need our colleagues. I now work with colleagues who are so embattled and tired and overwhelmed that they often find themselves not even able to support each other because they are so tired. It is this deteriorating climate that has driven an increasing number of talented and dedicated administrators, teachers, and staff to seek professional and personal fulfillment elsewhere. 113 used to be a destination district. I do not believe it is any longer. I watch many of my colleagues move on, and I wonder if this school board has taken the time to find out from them what the specific conditions were that motivated their decision to leave. It's been suggested to me by at least one community member that perhaps this attrition is part of a larger board plan to change the culture of Highland Park. People ask me why I care. I get to leave in 1 year. But this is my community and this is my school. Retiring in this climate feels as if I'm abandoning an institution that next to my own family has meant more to me than I can say. I'm speaking today as a concerned parent. My name is Amy Dowell. I grew up in Highland Park, and I, along with my two brothers, went to Highland Park High School. My mother grew up in Highland Park and went to Highland Park High School as well. I chose to raise my kids in Highland Park and have one HPHS graduate, another child who is a junior, and I also have an incoming freshman. It is an understatement to say that what I am seeing happen to our high school and our community makes me angry. But most of all, it breaks my heart. I have nothing but amazing memories of my high school years, and that is what I wanted for my children. I want to believe that those of you in positions of power within the administration only have our children's best interests at heart. I mean, why else would you be doing what you are, sitting on the school board, working as a superintendent, a principal, etc.? But from where I sit, it seems like the adults have lost sight of the goal and what's important. The discussion going forward should be about our children. In my opinion, every statement made should be followed by the question, is this good for the children? I watched the board meetings that were posted online. I was disheartened by what I saw. Arguing amongst grown people about a 3-minute rule. We have 75 kids in alternative schooling this year due to mental health issues, stress, anxiety, addiction, potential suicide. We have 20 plus kids who are designated homeless. We have teachers leaving our school by the tens, good teachers who care deeply about our children but feel they have no other choice but to seek employment elsewhere. And you are arguing about whether someone speaks for more than 3 minutes? You should be ashamed of yourselves. My son was just selected by his peers to be student class president for next year. He will be a senior. He did not run so he could put president on his applications for college. He ran because he genuinely cares about his high school. He has been incredibly involved in many aspects of HPHS since the day he entered as a freshman. He is a high achiever and a deeply passionate kid, both a blessing and a curse. I sit and listen to him talk about all of the things that are wrong from a student's point of view and what he wants to do to create change in HPHS and make it better. Everything it could and should be, as he says. He has ideas coming out of his ears. His positivity is inspiring and his naivety about what is going on with the district is gut-wrenching. He talks constantly about the lack of school spirit and the dilution of what should be a common goal among students and teachers and principal and support staff. He engages in conversation daily with teachers and coaches and sponsors of clubs he's involved in. Not only silly typical banter, but actual adult conversation because he believes there needs to be a positive change at school. He notices the teachers who are frustrated. He feels it and he sees it. And he tells me lots of other kids do too. They are not stupid. They see upset teachers and teachers who feel their hands are tied or they are not being supported by the school district they work for. The negativity trickles down to our children. It seeps into their being and they don't even know how or why it's happening. That is what is changing the culture of our school. Analytics are great and I even believe necessary. However, you don't need statistics to know that if kids feel proud and happy and encouraged and supported, they will thrive. Every parent knows that. Kids participate and get involved, they will test better, they will be engaged with their peers in their school because they will be proud to be a part of it all. You don't need a survey or a poll or a report to understand that. We need to actually focus on our children. They are lost, stressed out, anxiety-ridden, substance abusing, and all the while, many are highly productive and successful students, but many are not. They should not have to feel bad about their school because adults can't get it together. They feel bad about themselves for so many other reasons, all wrapped up in just being teenagers. They should not have to bear this burden as well. I don't have the solution, I wish I did, but I do believe we should be highly focused on protecting and supporting our teachers who deserve our respect at the very least. I do believe we should act like adults and stop the self-serving rhetoric and have some real practical conversations. I do believe we should listen to our students because they actually have a lot of valuable input that our district could greatly benefit from. I do believe we should listen to our teachers and find out from them why they are angry and frustrated without them being fearful of losing their jobs. I tell my kids, and I will say it here, you cannot lead if you do not listen. You are the leaders of our district. You need to listen. I also believe that if we don't fix this problem fast, we are going to find ourselves and our community as a whole in a very, very dark place. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Marty Esker and I'm DEA president. This is my 25th year at Deerfield High School. I live in Highland Park. My wife also teaches and coaches at Deerfield. Our 4 children are or will be attending Highland Park High School. Needless to say, my investment in this district is multifaceted. Before I continue with the remarks that I had already prepared there as well, I would like to address on the consent agenda, Part C, approval of a 3-year employment contract for Deerfield High School principal effective July 1st, 2018. Many years ago, hiring principals or giving contracts would have made the main agenda, not the consent agenda. And I know we do hiring lots of different ways. And this has actually nothing to do with our current principal, specifically my comments. Right now, our principal is in the 2nd year of a 3-year contract. Her contract ends in 2019. And yet here, we have a 3-year contract to start 2018. And I remember our superintendent with only 6 months experience in his job, with no prior training as a superintendent, out of the blue, getting a 3-year contract extension and a $40,000 increase in pay retroactive. And my question is, for the district, for the teachers, for the board, and everyone else, what do we have to gain in giving a 3-year contract 1 year early? I mean, haven't we bought out enough contracts already to let them go their full time? I mean, something could happen. Who knows? I just don't get it. But I would ask that the board remove this item, let a person fill out their 3-year contract, and then renew it if performance is great. Last school year, I spoke at a board meeting after the last of the 3 assistant principals at Highland Park had resigned to pursue the lateral positions that we've heard so much about. I asked the board to stop ignoring the elephant in the room and to please find out why all of our leaders were fleeing. I believe that the board has received the feedback. We know they have. We see it here. We've heard it the last few weeks, and people wonder, are you getting it? The climate survey presented to you tonight makes all others pale by comparison. The results will provide any additional metrics you may need. To use a different cliche, now that the elephant has been identified, please don't be the ostrich that sticks its head in the sand. We have talked a lot about wanting to be a destination district, and yet we do continue to be the district of departure, people being recruited, as you've already heard about here. Andy Butler leaving is just another incredible wound that we've already heard about. Why are people leaving not only for lateral positions, but pay cuts because they can't get all the creditable service when they leave? They're willing to leave for lateral positions and a pay cut. When will the hemorrhaging stop? The only entity that can act is you. You need to take dramatic, timely, and significant actions. You can't be the ostrich. I'd like to share my own feelings about our district from a staff member perspective. What made this district great is the following. It hired great people. It encouraged them to try new things and innovative things. It removed obstacles to their success. And while we all did different things in the district, we were all one team. We knew our administrators. We saw them. They saw us, conversed with us, knew us as educators. They didn't need to dictate. They didn't need to solve all the problems by themselves. They just needed to collaborate and empower the wonderful people they hired. They needed to trust and not retreat within a disconnected, smaller group at the first sign of trouble. Most significantly, they needed to form authentic relationships and not robotically go through all the motions checking the boxes. We have the same great community with the same great kids and the same great colleagues, but a very different and distressful operating environment. We have all shielded as best we can from the students, but as the climate survey shows this year, the infection has spread from just the district office to our schools. And now our only place of haven and refuge is our individual departments and department chairs. And please understand, this is not just Highland Park experiencing this. It's just more noticeable there. Finally, I'd like to follow up on remarks I made at a March board meeting. At the time, I asked you why we would be creating a new position, Operations and Facility Coordinator. when we had only created the district facility manager to help with referendum projects. The cost, $75,000 to $90,000 a year. Earlier, we had spent $180,000 from Gil Bain to get a computer software and things to help us with our facilities. The district now has also sought to hire an applications and system administrator in technology. The cost, $65,000 to $75,000 per year. Also, we've recently added staff to HR. Now, don't get me wrong, there may be very good reasons for creating some of these positions. But I find it unusual that all of these district administrative positions can be created while we're simultaneously telling our labor groups that the district is short on resources, money's tight, FTE's limited, class sizes may have to be that way because we can't, that the district could be in financial peril with changes in state law. The district needs to decide its position. It can't have it always.
Hi, sorry, my legal name is Ren Wei Guo. I also have English name Joseph. I am the A for the science department here. I'm making $1,400 per year. My position just got eliminated. I was a physician from China. I also have bachelor degree in medicine. I'm sorry, this is more personal than everybody else was talking about earlier. But what I try to say is, my wife teaches at Highland Park. My kids in this I still have a kid in this district. I really sacrificed my knowledge, my education to be an A. But it's $1,400 per year. They still eliminated this position. I'm wondering what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Katie Bittner, and I'm a Deerfield resident, and I have one child in the high school and one that graduated. I've heard a lot of talking about the culture of District 113, and I would like to speak to some of the comments because the superintendent often talks about his connections with 109, which I serve on the board there. I don't really see the connections, and there was a group of us who ran for the board, in our district because of the problems with the culture. And I do not believe the superintendent has the ability to change because he doesn't admit that there's any problem. When I've had conversations with him, he says, who told you that? Where did you get that information? It's very indicative of the retaliatory methods that he uses that the staff have explained to me. So I would urge the board to do something because we all see the dysfunction, but I don't know what you guys are waiting for.
Do you have any other citizens' comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kathy Nachman. I've been working in District 113 for a little over 20 years as a substitute teacher, a coach, a sponsor, whatever, and I've been wanting to say this for a long time, but I now have my impetus. Please stop adding layers and layers. You have given the substitute teachers $1 a day raise, which is the first raise we got since the 2009-2010 school year. And if you have a sub that works 100 days in the district, which isn't a full school year, but it's pretty darn close to being a dedicated sub to District 113, they have gotten this year $100 before taxes. That was our raise after not getting a raise from 2009-2010 school year. And I have worked 31 dates scoring basketball games and wrestling meets and volleyball matches, and I made, for my 6 weeks of nights and Saturdays, less than half of what I would have made 7 years ago doing the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to talk, and the fact that I changed my mind can't surprise half the people in this room. And there's no reason for me to repeat the amazingly articulate concerns voiced by my colleagues. Thank you to the parents who've come out. Your support is what gets us through most days, and I don't know that we have felt it as explicitly as I've heard it expressed tonight, so I cannot thank you. What brought me to the table, or to the podium tonight, is the ridiculous lack of respect that the support, the custodial, the substitute teaching employees of this district got. When I came to this high school, and since we're now allowed to use numbers, 30 years ago, well, that was the second time I came. The colleagues I had, many of whom had been my teachers in high school, said that the people you have to take the best care of are your custodians, are your support staff, because they're the people who are going to take care of you. I have talked to my friends in those positions, and they have, over the last few years, described explicit expressions of disrespect from members on this board, disregard for their concerns, disregard for their contributions. I work in a building that is staffed by the most incredibly talented and devoted women at the staff level, some of whom are leaving because they cannot stand the way they're being treated, let alone the way they're being paid. We have a custodial staff that is bare bones. The support staff, every one of them is doing the job of 2 people. And they do it at an income level that isn't going to provide the cognitive dissonance they need to do it for long. I went to and I worked at a high school that understood that loyalty was top down and production was top up. And it's not the value of this building. No matter whose job it is, we have been asked over the last 4 or 5 years, and I would argue that some of these trends started long before the current administration, to justify everything to the people above us. I worked for a superintendent when I got here who happened to be friends with my parents, and my mother, being the crazy woman that she was, used to ask him, how do you hire him? He wear torn blue jeans and gym shoes. And Jim Warren's response was, he's here to take care of the kids, and that's all we care about. And as so many of my colleagues have said, that was once. I have responsibilities to the parents, I have responsibilities to the community. But increasingly, building administrators, department chair level administrators, and teachers are in this whirlpool where we have to defend ourselves up as opposed to being taken care of by those who have positions of authority. Systems, that's a mirror word, thank you. Systems and institutions are best recognized by the way they take care of their employees. And I'm talking about all of us in this building. And I have colleagues without teaching certifications, I guess licenses now, that are being abused in ways that you have heard here. And that's not who we ever were, and it's not who any of us have any interest in being. And as more than one person has said tonight, that's your responsibility. And I would hope you began to take care of it.
Thank you. Do we have any other citizens' comments at this time? Okay, Thank you, everyone. We are going to move on to our... Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe. I didn't realize that.
Hi, my name is Kanal Jara, and I teach at Highland Park, and I live in the community after marrying my bride 3 years ago. Today, in AP Physics, my students were picking on a student just as he was about to present a problem on video, and he was getting teased by another student. I asked them to stop right away before we began recording, and that was when they told me that I should watch the Board of Education meeting from April 16th, and how the board members were disrespectful to each other. And they were laughing at you, and told me that lots of students are watching. I watched today and wanted to address you because of that. If my students are laughing at you, your behaviors, how do you expect to gain respect of students, staff, teachers, and parents in the community? Respect is earned. Please make the changes needed to earn the respect of the District 113 community. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. So we're going to move on to our teacher representatives. Mr. Vogelsang.
Good evening, everyone. April has been a shorter month since spring break consumed the first week of April, but there have been plenty of things happening within our building. So let me, as quickly as I can, run down through a number of these things. John Conley and Erica Took engaged 100 Introduction to Engineering Design students in a design challenge sponsored by Horizon Pharma, a biopharmaceutical company in Lake Forest. After the initial presentations at HBHS, 4 teams were selected to present at the Horizon Pharma earlier this month. I reported on that a little bit last time, and the teams did very well. And just last Thursday, 7 freshman students presented in front of 300 people at the Motorola Mobility facility last Thursday. So what an experience for freshman students. Computer science student Lucy Caskey won the NCWIT, that's the National Center for Women in Technology Award, for aspirations in computing. Her teacher, Deb Wilson, won the Honorable Mention Regional Teacher Award as well. Lucy's first experience in computer science occurred in Deb's class, and now she is in the AP Computer Science class, and she is planning to start a coding club at HPHS next year. 12 buses took 497 students to the Shed Aquarium for prom last Saturday, well, the Saturday before, April 21st. Our students represented the high school extremely well. I was there, I saw them. They appeared to have a great time. And from a chaperone's perspective, I really want to compliment Lisa Friedrich and the others that were involved in this activity because they made our job so easy. Lisa used an app called GroupMe, which allowed all the chaperones to constantly stay in touch with one another, whether we were at the dance or on the buses. It also forced me to get a smartphone. My irony of being a media teacher and having an old-fashioned phone no longer exists. I also would like to compliment our security staff. I had a student that lost a purse filled with money, and within a matter of minutes, they were searching the grounds for it and checked in with me on several occasions to see if I had heard anything. It turned out that her friend had picked up her purse when she saw it sitting on a table. And they, you know, we get back from the dance and they're out in the cold directing traffic to make sure that everybody gets out of the parking lot smoothly. It really was much appreciated by many people. Our deans, Brian Rome and Claudia Lopez, presented earlier this month at the Illinois State Deans Association. Roughly 60 deans from around the state listened to their presentation on their innovative use of circles These are discussion groups that are designed to bring kids closer to the high school to decrease their likelihood of cutting class. And what was special about this presentation is the feedback they got regarding a video of some of our students talking about the program. And I saw the video, and the manner in which our students presented their feelings about this program was pretty spectacular. It was so sincere and really well delivered. The academic success of our swimmers and divers, both boys and girls, will be recognized this summer by the NISCA, that's the National Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association. The boys swim and diving team has been identified as an academic All-American Scholar team at the silver level for their cumulative GPA of 3.602. And the girls swimming and diving team has been identified as an academic All-American Scholar team at the gold level for their unbelievable cumulative GPA of 3.955. This may very well be the highest GPA of any team in the country. They'll find out this summer. The following swimmers and divers are recognized individually as being academic All-Americans, as recognized by the NISCA. For the boys, it was Sam Hoffman, and for the girls, it was Ileana Velik, Rachel Wander, Hannah Wander, Sarah Fishbein, Brianna Hack, Ariane Cole, and Noah Cole. Lisa Berghoff was interviewed for a podcast last week. The TLC Ninja Teachers podcast interviewed her about her work in integrating technology with the Universal Design for Learning framework. Lisa got to share some of the work she is doing with HP students who are struggling learners. They're struggling with technology as well with the Universal Design framework. You can, listen to her podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts. DECA, I reported last meeting that we were headed to World Championships, or the international competition, and we did have 22 students attend. 19 competed, and 3 participated in the Leadership Academy. 3 of these students finished in the top 20, another 3 finished in the top 10, and Dylan Weiskirch, Jordy Mazza, and Sam Denson placed 3rd in the virtual business sports category. And once again, this was at the international competition. Speaking of competitions, robotics team, Team Vertigo performed well at the World Championships in Detroit last weekend. They didn't come home with an award, but they were a finalist out of 128 teams for the Rockwell Collins Innovative Award. And this is an award that celebrates a team that thinks outside of the box and has the ingenuity and inventiveness to make their designs come to life. So this is the first time that our robotics team has been up for that award. For the first time in program history, the girls track and field team won the Lake County Invite on April 26th. That's pretty cool. At their meeting last Friday, the Key Club celebrated their numerous activities this year and announced that they have raised over $5,400 this year. And they certainly have made a difference in our community. And unlike other fundraisers, Key Club raises their money in smaller activities like bake sales and walking bake sales. And to raise that much money over the course of the year is really pretty impressive. During the month of April, Rotary Interact found ways to recognize our students from military families. April is the month of the military child, and they did a number of things around the school to acknowledge these students, including putting up purple ribbons throughout the building. And yesterday, they capped off the month by packaging 100 welcome and farewell boxes for children in military families, grades K through 8. And they partnered with Kelsey Liverpool and the Kids Rank organization. And from what I'm hearing, the event was a great success. I think just the fact that they had 100 packages is pretty impressive. 21 students from the senior seminar in Spanish course hosted a dual language fair last Thursday. Those in attendance included 8th graders from dual language programs that had come to the high school. Parents were there of students that were presenting, as well as a member of the District 112 Bilingual Parent Advisory Committee and other community leaders. Ms. Hyman was there, and if you were at this, it was so much fun because the kids were having such a great time delivering their little presentations. You could see the pride. My little anecdote is I was watching a student who was looking at another student's display when she noticed that at the other side of the room some students had come to hers. And she didn't just walk over to give her presentation, she ran as fast as she could in her dress and heels. And then to me that just showed the enthusiasm that the students had. And what a wonderful opportunity for 8th graders to see the high school, to come during the day and see our students in action. And then later in the day, by the way, these same students then went to Oak Terrace to work with the dual language kids there. Apparently they've been working with them for the past 8 weeks. This past weekend, Hispanos Unidos sponsored the 21st annual Chicano College Bowl, and our HPHS team took 2nd place. But perhaps the biggest highlight was labor activist and civil rights leader Dolores Huerta was the keynote speaker. But she also spent a great deal of time interacting with the students outside of that keynote address. And these weren't just students from our school, but from neighboring schools as well. And then the next day, staff from our high school as well as students got to attend a brunch with her, where they were able to have further conversations with her about her experience, but also how they could initiate change, not just in their school, but in their community. And finally, a plug for my program. HPTV students attended the Midwest Media Educators Association Video Festival last Friday. Our live broadcasting team took a 3rd place. This is the one category where we were competing with all the big schools that have their own remote trucks and things like that. We took 3rd. We were very happy. And Ezra Miller took 1st place in the coveted news package category with his Hot Chocolate Fridays piece. This was a wonderful piece. And when it played at the ceremony, this ceremony is really well run, and you feel like you're at the Emmy Awards. The crowd went crazy because they were seeing this thing going on in their school that they had never seen in theirs. So that was definitely a special experience for our kids. And I don't know, Jake, if you're mentioning anything about Deerfield and Derek's, but they also did very well, and one of their pieces was really outstanding. And it was fun to see the acclaim that it got there as well. And I also have to finish with a plug for some help that I got from our administration prior to this event, where we had gotten word that morning that a threat had been made at the high school that we were about to go to. It had happened earlier and the student had been arrested, but we needed to know what to do. And within, I'm talking a matter of minutes, our administration had given us a clear answer with what we could do and how we should approach this. And that meant a lot to us because we had all these kids all dressed up ready to go, and to get that response right away was really nice. So that's a look into Highland Park High School. I'm sorry it went a little long, but again, there's so many things happening.
That's great, thank you.
Hi all, let me give you guys the report from Deerfield High School. The Freshman Exec Board identified an area of need to focus on for the freshman project. This year the board raised $500 for the international branch of Make-A-Wish Foundation, and the sponsors are Stacy Halpern and Amy Heinzen. Athena Sawyer's Chinese 4 class and Karen Deegan's Child Development 2 and 3 class will be collaborating this Thursday, 6th period for the 3rd year. Her students will be teaching the Deer Park preschoolers several Chinese vocabulary words, including hello, goodbye, thank you, and all of the animals of the Chinese zodiac. Her students are teaming with them to make the lesson age appropriate and engaging. All students will participate in a collaborative art project and will end the lesson with a Chinese nursery rhyme about cooking stir fry and rolling dumplings. They're excited to be working together regarding this year, and a valuable learning experience for all students to share. Kristen Doctor and Kim Wiley presented a session at the Illinois Association for College Admission Counseling annual conference titled Experience a College Visit at Elmhurst. The session let participants experience Elmhurst College through the lens of both an attendee and the coordinator. Their goal was to help colleagues learn how to plan and implement a college visit for a group of students and receive resources about campus visit protocol, as well as highlight and utilize campus resources and programs to maximize interest. Kristen Jiggets, Buffy Salee, and Sarah Toplinski will be presenting at the 2018 NCTE conference in Houston, Texas this November. They just received word that their proposal, Teaching Through the Lens of Equity, even at a predominantly white suburban school, was accepted. Glynis Hirsch just shared that we, Deerfield High School, are excited to announce a street name change from High School Drive to Warrior Way. The change took effect just last week. It was exciting that the street name matches the efforts to live the Warrior Way each and every day. It will be a constant and positive reminder to all who pass through the high school on Waukegan and all who enter our campus. A huge congratulations to the DHS class of 2018 and its sponsor, Katie Doughton, along with Brian Barisario and Kathy Anderson for working closely with the Village of Deerfield officials to make this happen. It's one of the best gifts ever. Tim Black shared that 20 artists participated in Life is Simply Art, presented by the Great Frame Up. The 20 students that were selected, and I apologize if I butcher any of their names, were Jasmine Tang in watercolor, Catalina Tichelagrave for marker and pen, Annika Sorensen for marker and pen, Francis Adufahide for photography, Ryan Wield for design, Grace Lehman for mixed media, Ariel Karsh for oil and canvas, Emily Zinbarg for acrylic on wood panel, Tess Levitt for photography, Ashley Cock for photography, Ellie Kamen for chalk pastel, Zoe Burton for oil on canvas, Riley Burton for mixed media, Isabel Parisi for photography, Julia Karchevi for mixed media, Asha Aurora for photography, Wyatt Harris for pencil, Abby Conway for photography, Haley Epstein for design, and Nina Quesada for marker and pen. All work in the show was framed for courtesy of the Great Frame Up. Annika Sorensen also won 3rd place in the Illinois 10th Congressional District Art Show, and her work will hang in Congressman Brad Schneider's office in the Capitol building this year as well. Congratulations to Tim Black for that. Molly Kaplan and student Jessica Kaplan, not related, shared with me that on April 25th, student council members attended the We Day at the Allstate Arena. We Day is a day of celebration of service work and empowerment for a generation of young changemakers. Students heard from the founders of the We movement, student activists and leaders, and celebrities such as Daya and the former Prime Minister of Australia, and This Is Us star Lonnie Chavis, about the power that young people have to make a difference. Deerfield's work with School Chess was honored at this event in front of 10,000 plus youth and sponsors. Christy Lempa shared that the Junior Leaders PE class, 33 juniors, took a field trip Thursday to Feed My Starving Children to practice their servant leadership. They stopped for breakfast first, and the owner commented that this is the best group of high school students they ever had in terms of behavior. Their behavior was first class, and they thanked us for bringing them in. At FMSC, the group packed enough to feed 151 children for a year. Once again, the staff commented on the students' behavior and thanked us for our work ethic and courteous behavior. I was proud to be a warrior with this group of young men and women. We represented DHS in the highest regard, and I thought this was worth sharing. Carly Michaels also chaperoned on this trip as well. Today was one of the more interesting days at DHS based on the fact that we celebrated our 4th Genocide Commemoration Day today. So today was a really, really neat day at DHS for a variety of reasons. Number one, students got to hear real life stories from speakers, which I'll get into in a second, but they listened. The other reason the event was really cool today is the fact that each teacher in the school read biographies at the start of each period, and not only just social studies teachers. Every teacher did this, and it was a really neat activity that encompassed the whole school. We also heard survivors of the genocide speak in the auditorium, and they were Claire Mukundante, a Rwandan genocide survivor who spoke 2nd and 3rd period, and Steen Metz, a Holocaust survivor who spoke 6th and 7th period. There was a mini museum in the bookstore lobby where students basically had a forum to learn and take action. And lastly, they're going to implement this by donating to help Rohingya refugees make durable shelters for the monsoon season. And the sponsors in this event were Nikki Antonakos and Stacy Studnitzer, and the students that worked in this event were Jordana Bornstein, Jessica Kaplan, Shula Horton, Ella Katz, Ty Melnick, Liza Blumen, Sarah Gertz, and Ariel Well. And last but not least, as Mr. Vogelsong spoke about, Brett Schwartz, I think his counterpart over at DHS, Also talked about the 25th annual MMEA Video Festival, and he mentioned that Julie Niesenbaum got first place in documentary, Brett Needleman took second place in commercial, Julie Niesenbaum got second place in cinematography, Michael Norwish took second place in dramatic narrative and third place in cinematography as well, and many of the students also did really well in the Student Television Network, where Julie Niesenbaum got first place in commercial, first place in sci fantasy, along with Michael Norwish, and nominations for Crystal Pillars and Student Production Awards, the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. In terms of commercial, went to Julie Niesenbaum. Serious News went to Bernadette Itzkow. Photographer Julie Niesenbaum. Photographer Michael Norwish. And finally, at NISPA, the Northern Illinois Scholastic Press Association Annual Convention, Dear Prince newspapers also won many awards. And these were Galena Boyer in feature writing, Brett Needleman in video production, Andrew Toban in ad design, and Uri Uziel in column writing. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Ms. Anderson, our principal report.
Thank you. So to follow up with what JIC has provided, in addition to all of that, I wanted to recognize two students, Ariel Parrish and Anoki Manchada. They were recognized by the Illinois Principals Association for being Students of the Year for everything that they have done throughout their time at DHS. As Mr. Bolsing had identified about Chicano Bowl, DHS also participated in that this weekend. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Melissa Romero-Williams, for her support of our students. In addition to We Day, in addition to the amazing information that was shared about school chess, we also have one of our students, Kyla Guru, who also spoke at We Day. So another great accolade for amazing work that we shared at We Day. Sophie Henry and Amy Dang competed in place of the Worldwide Youth in Science and Engineering Academic Challenge state tournament. Sophie won the state championship in English and Amy won 6th place in physics. Congratulations to our students and Coach Marty Escar. Last week, 17 student athletes were recognized on NCAA signing day. Each of these stellar DHS students and athletes has chosen to compete in college as well. We do have ongoing spring sports. Today seemed like the first day of spring sports though. Right now we have some amazing things going on recognizing our seniors. And just kind of a push to come out this week to see gymnastics. They are actually ranked #1 in the state. So good luck to all of our gymnastics and Coach Doug Farrick. This week we have incubator.edu, incubator EDU pitches. This is where our students who have developed businesses are able to pitch their businesses to a group of their mentors and other people who could give them startup money. So next year they might possibly be able to run those businesses. So thank you to teacher Joe Navikas, who has done a phenomenal job of getting this class up and running and just being a wonderful mentor to the students. A big shout out, just like Mr. Volgasing said about prom at HP, we also had prom at DHS. So a big recognition to Stacy Studnitzer, Michelle Brownell, Brian Barisario, Betty Lieberlis, our security and all staff chaperones. It was a phenomenal evening, followed by the prom after party put on by our wonderful parents of DPN. So this is just a wonderful way for our students to have a safe evening, and they have tons of fun, are fully caffeinated, and get home safely. So thank you to all of our parents and everybody involved with that. And lastly, just to reiterate what Mr. Vore indicated in regards to today's 4th Annual Genocide Commemoration Day, it was truly a powerful event for all. We also had Representative Scott Drury, Representative Brett Schneider, Senator Julie Morrison in attendance at these events. And although Senator Tammy Duckworth was unable to attend, she sent a powerful letter just saying how wonderful she thought this event was and to recognize those that put it on. So just to reiterate, a special thank you to our Genocide Commemoration Day Committee, our students, our faculty advisors, Ms. Antonakos and Ms. Sudnitzer, as well as the entire Social Studies Department, technology, maintenance activities, and all staff who supported this day. It really took the entire community, and it was truly a powerful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Our superintendent report.
Thank you. Good evening. I have a couple of FOIA request updates. On April 16, 2018, we received a request from Lee Holbrook-Priest regarding the year in which the Link Crew Freshman Transition Program was implemented at Highland Park High School. We denied the request because it was framed as a question and not as a request for records. However, we also offered to provide the information outside of the FOIA request process. On April 18, 2018, we received a request from Courtney McRae of OGC Global for copies of materials related to the bid for enterprise resource planning software and the process for executing a contract for a successful bidder. We granted the request and responded on April 26, 2018. On April 20th, 2018, we received a request from Jonah Meadows of Patch for records showing the boundaries of all Township High School District 113 real estate property. We partially responded to the request and received an extension until May 3rd to provide the remainder of the response. On April 27, 2018, we received a request from Jonah Meadows of Patch for budget records. We will respond in a timely manner. Actually, this evening, Jig, Tom, and Kathy gave a very, very thorough review of many of the happenings in the district. So without repeating many of those, there are a couple of items I wanted to make sure I mention because they are either ongoing or upcoming, and I think they're noteworthy. So with that, this week on May 3rd, we will be experiencing the Student Honor Dinner, which is the 53rd Annual Student Honor Dinner for Highland Park students held at 5:30 p.m. at the Highland Park Country Club. The event is an event that Highland Park businesses recognize students that have been selected by Highland Park High School for their outstanding character as well as excellence in academics, sports, extracurriculars, community support, etc. We're looking forward to the event. It's an event that I was able to attend last year and enjoyed very much, and being part of what will be a wonderful evening to honor our students. A couple of things I want to mention about our strategic plan. During the 2016-17 school year, the strategic plan was developed with input from over 1,000 stakeholders across 5 communities. These included students, staff, parents, and the sessions included 42 different sessions that were held during that school year. This strategic plan represents the beliefs of our students, parents, teachers, staff, and community. Community were also involved in those stakeholder forums that were held on how together we can implement best practices, build more effective, efficient systems, and most importantly, serve our students. This school year, we did begin the process of implementing the plan, and we'll continue implementing the plan during the summer administrative retreat. Our plan contains 4 beliefs that center on belief 1, in summary, it is a development of potential for all students. Belief 2, hiring, supporting, retaining staff. Belief 3, communications, relationship building, and belief 4, optimizing district resources. Over the past 3 years, we've made a concerted effort to focus on implementing all of these areas, but we were able to do that in one document with a strategic plan, which was implemented this year. This evening, Mr. Fuhr, John Fuhr is our Director of Facilities, is going to review in ways that we are working to optimize funds to support teaching and learning for all district operations. We're currently working on a food service proposal to ensure we're optimizing expenditures and maximizing resources. We're also balancing our aggregate and disaggregated budgets and ensuring FTE and other district positions are based on reallocating and realignment sources without deficit spending. And in addition, we are currently examining energy management and additional strategies such as solar power to increase savings and maximize resources. Many of these items are multi-year approaches and ways that we are looking to better streamline our operations in the district to better support, at the end, all students and for teaching and learning. So Mr. Fuhrer is going to actually present on some of this evening during the information item, and I welcome any questions that the board may have for Mr. Fuhrer this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to our information items. We'll start with board committee reports. Does anyone have any board committee reports they'd like to share tonight? Okay, so we'll go on to the next information item is the superintendent evaluation process. And Stacy and I kind of started the conversation about this. It will become a discussion item to talk as a full board. But the idea was really to formalize our evaluation process really based on IASB best practices. So what you have here are just samples of what we were looking at through ISB and with our field representative, and sort of, again, formalizing the evaluation process. So we kind of looked at it, and we'll have the ability to speak with Dr. Dignam, and then as a group we can formalize what the process we currently have and maybe improve upon it, and also work with the best practices through IASB. So that's really kind of for everyone to review, and at some point we'll be looking for feedback on that. And then next we have our facilities update.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the chance to update you tonight. This is really more of a focusing around operations for the district as far as process and staffing of leadership, not around capital and uses of our budgeting that way, but more around the staffing and how we use the folks we have. With this, everything we do is in the mission statement. Just as every other department functions in the district is driven by that directive. And more specifically, we drive and align to belief 4, that references we believe that district resources must be used optimally to create the greatest benefit for, just the greatest benefit. Ultimately, it goes back to the students in the classroom. Before I get into the goals, I just want to make a few comments. While I'm going to be discussing, I apologize. While the district does not make money, we do have the opportunity to save money and reallocate those funds. So that is really the focus of what this is about tonight. The items I'm also going to be talking about do not reflect on the custodians, maintenance, or ground staff about how they function. It's a structure. It's about the structure they are operating within. Our custodians and grounds maintenance teams, they work very hard and they do many great things. These teams will be part of all changes to the processes that I'm talking about, and will be taking part to help develop their own future. And with that, the goals of the Operation and Facility Department as we move forward in the next year are going to be really focusing on 5 major things: increasing customer service to students and staff. That's about getting more responsive to their needs, not so much our needs. Improving individual and team performances, so the quality of the work we're doing. Increasing overall efficiencies, so the quantity of the work we can do through the course of the year. And we'll be using data to drive these decisions as we manage the district's largest assets, the largest line item in the budget, next to labor. And this is all going to be done while we focus on staying cost neutral and remain, controlling costs. How are we going to be meeting these goals? It's going to be operational realignment of the leadership. We're going to be empowering people to be in roles and succeed and improve the performance, again, while staying cost neutral. One of the first primary things we were looking at, and we started this year off, was the introduction of an operations coordinator. This is a timing issue, to be respectful to folks and staff that are involved in this process. Some of these conversations couldn't take place till last week, so that's why we are able to speak to this tonight, because the individuals that could potentially be impacted positively or potentially negatively have had conversations. So that's why the operations coordinator started a little while back, because that was not impactful to in-house staff. We're going to be reassigning a facility manager position. We're going to be revisioning our security positions to 12 months from 10. There's going to be a greater emphasis on our security going into next year, and we need to use those resources a little more wisely. We're going to be redefining a facility manager position. Excuse me. And all this will be done starting the school year next year, that our operationally, our administration staff will be the same as it is today. There's not going to be an increase. And we'll be also creating additional lead positions for a total of 7. That is pushing some of the leadership down to the custodial maintenance level, so those folks can make better decisions more timely for the folks in the schools. And that'll be getting developed as we move into next year as well. So what I'm going to be showing you now is just a little data to try to illustrate why this why this is going to be needed. Sorry. Computer. Slow down. One above?
One back.
Yeah, back one.
Let's try again.
So one of the things we look at when we, in the operations world, it's really all about your labor pool and what you have as a resource. So you call it like a labor budget. If you look at the peach cone, the top part there, that's kind of taking into account all potential hours we have, 12, 10, and 9.5 month folks. It's approximated because people kind of be grouped together, so this is just to really illustrate. It's within percentage points, very minute, but this gives you the illustration that we have about 140,000 potential labor hours. You have to subtract about 23,000 of that for the benefit packages that everybody has. This is about 124,000. Ultimately, you get down to the bottom, after taking out breaks and lunches, you're at about 110,000 labor hours that we have to work with. That's 75,000 is a very common number to see at that point when you take out benefits. That's a number I was expecting to kind of see. I apologize if it's in the yellow there, it's not showing up clearly. Is a goal of about 60,000 is what we're going to be ultimately working towards over this next couple of years as we develop these programs and put these in place. That's about an 85,000 labor hour target. So this next number this is getting into some more of the why of the realignment. And what I'm going to be using tonight is School Dude. It's our work order system. It's a tool that's predominantly used to give us our metrics on how well we're responding. But right now it is a very tunnel view of how we use it, because that's just the way it's being used today for us in-house. So if you look at 12, 13 at the bottom of that table there, up to the 16, 17, that's the past 5 full years of using School Dude. That's the number of work orders we did annually. So if you look to the right there, you see the percentages of performance that I've outlined there. Those are marked against that, again, that peach-colored bar up there, the 6,200 work orders and 517 a month. That's from a like-kind district, like-kind labor, like-kind square footage. So these are not based in theoreticals, these are based in actual performances. So that's just illustrating we are operating somewhere in the mid-30s relative to our potential of operations. Some of these next slides are going to be kind of putting some more meat to that. That's just not a data collection issue, that's how we do the process. And again, this is just one of our processes that we have in the operations department. So some specifics behind that, you see the top graphs, the top 4 graphs as District 113. The bottom graph is the sample district that is tied to that previous slide. So if you look at those bars, the blue graphs are the schools, the green is the top 20% of peer groups. And this is School Dude data now, not our data. School Dude is the green, yellow, and red. The median's yellow, and the red is the bottom 20% of performers. So if you look at District 113 at the top, you can see how we are not hitting good quality data going into our work orders. We're doing well at craft, but that's a task that's done with the creation of the ticket. But we are utilizing the data and the process behind that to take it to fruition all the way through the process. Whereas you look at the sample district, you're getting maximum use out of the tool. That means you're getting quality data out. It's not just, bad data going in and producing bad data out. We're getting good quality data out of that process. So the opportunity is there to pick up a significant amount of operational efficiency out of this. And if we go to the next slide, the work orders on time is another illustration of even the work orders that we are doing. Our process is not being responsive to our customers, if you will. It's not that, again, it's not that people aren't working hard, it's just how we're doing it, it's how the operational, the leadership around them is putting them in positions to succeed. So this is one of the areas we're going to be able to improve our process as we move forward. This is really a leadership issue in how we schedule and plan and parts ordering and having things ready for them so people can just do the jobs and move on and not be waiting and walking around and wandering buildings looking for parts. So the next slide after that, you'll come to see the average hours per week. Again, District 113 on top, you're seeing that our maintenance group is recording some, but we're not even recording custodial or PM work on our side. Again, you see the reference district at the bottom, how you can achieve and even overachieve. Some of that overachievement comes from when you have like summer help or extra kids coming into your labor pool. Your labor pool needs to go up so you can overachieve where you would be. But that's how well you should be able to be performing with our staff. Just to give you an illustration of one topic of facilities. So that is going to build PMs or build work orders and build our efficiencies of what we're doing. Because why you do PMs, we need potentially of increasing our assets by 40%, saving energy by 5 to 15%, or 5 to 11%, sorry. Those are industry numbers. And we'll be able to start adding our security, building envelope, electrical, plumbing systems, get everything into this, not just a single component and say we have a PM system. We need to be all, the whole building needs to be part of this process. So just using an example how this builds to our labor pool, we have 591 HVAC assets. It took me the better part of 4.5 to 5 months with our professionals assisting collecting that data, just to give an illustration of time together it takes to build this data. So that produces, if we just give an example of filter changes and annual PMs. I know every piece has filters, but you're going to touch it 4 times to do something. So if we do that for those 2 basic PM approaches, that produces just shy of 3,000 PMs through the course of a year. It's 2955. That translates, using our labor, if we get 15 minutes to the filter, the minimal inspections, to 2 hours for the annuals, that's producing almost 300 hours of labor at our 60%. That's just 1.5 people doing PMs throughout the day, every day of the year. Never doing setups, never plowing, never receiving material. That'd be all they'd be doing. So that's how we start to build our labor pool. And the next slide, please. And this slide is just really about to try to illustrate how we can start capturing and quantifying some of this work. The energy reference I made earlier, that 5 to 11% by itself on a 1.6 million utility budget that we have, that's an $80,000 to $176,000 saving just by having our equipment ensure that it is operating smoothly. We don't have motors drawing extra power because the bearings are going or the belts are lined up incorrectly. We'll be able to get more out of it just by saving energy. Our daily labor efficiencies, if you want to analyze it that way, if we say 15 minutes per person to be a little more effective in something they're doing, that's a $20,000 savings that we just bought more labor without hiring anybody. So that's a direct impact that somebody could be doing something else. If we get that to be an hour, that's an $80,000 plus savings that we just gained in labor efficiencies. If you want to go back to the very first line and look at when we talked about the overall efficiencies of us trying to get to that 60% number, if you take that labor efficiency and even do a modest 20, because the same percentage of this is purely procedural, and it's not necessarily really output, it's maybe it's our documentation process that doesn't produce a tangible product at the end. That 20% performance increase on our $3.4 million labor budget for our group is over $650,000 to $700,000 labor savings that we brought back to the district that by just doing what we're doing better. And if we can achieve that, we didn't hire anybody to do that yet. Doesn't mean we still won't need people eventually, but now we can say we are utilizing our staff and we can quantify and show you exactly why we need to have people. Using a single data point of just square footage is an okay thing. It's like using life cycling to say you want to change out that speaker or that HVAC unit because it's 20 years old. But if it was been maintained and working right, that unit could be there another 15, 20 years. So that's what we want to be able to quantify and show you and justify why we need to adjust certain staffing to specific areas that we would have. And with that, I'll wrap up. I just want to make a couple more comments again and say, we can show some efficiencies. We can use data to tell a story, but this is, again, not about our people not working hard. It's not about our people not doing good jobs. It does mean our people aren't necessarily working as efficient that they could be. It does mean that our people are not they're working harder and they're also not being as efficient, but that is not a function of them. That is a function of us. It's a function of my role. It's a function of our leadership over that role to put them in better places to succeed and start quantifying and showing that work to you and helping them build that story for themselves as we build the better ways and the more efficient ways. We utilize that resource that they have, and we can start putting that in place for them. The best part of this process, what I get excited by is this is a fixable solution. It's not like this is a bad problem. This is a good problem. We have the resources to fix it. It's a measurable solution that's quantifiable for you as a board. It's quantifiable for us as a leadership team. and it's sustainable. This is not something that should be because John's here. These are processes that should be in place to help be here long-term, not based on which facility director was here for which term. These are processes that should be in place, whether we're going through construction cycles, whether we're doing kind of a lull spot of general maintenance. But these are processes that we should have in place so we can help inform the community, inform you, and just be transparent with how we're doing what we do. With that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Oh.
If I could make a request, could we have these kinds of information in advance next time, like on the board book link, so that I could kind of look at it? It's harder to absorb for me, anyway, while I'm looking at it up here at the same time. So I'd like to have be able to preview it.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, this was a timing problem. I apologize for that. That was from last Friday. We were able to communicate with the folks. We felt it was a proper to give it to you today because in case there's going to be a conversation about it, and I apologize you didn't have it in your hands.
Okay, thank you.
My question was sort of the definition of work order. I'm thinking a work order would be something above and beyond what would be the regular responsibilities of maintenance staff, for example, or is that included? So, for example, maintaining the classrooms and the restrooms, would that be considered part of the work orders, or would it be because something was broken in the classroom that was a unique event?
Yes and yes. It's part of all that. We should be rolling this out into our bus fleets. We should be rolling this out on our security systems and doing audits on that to make sure cameras aren't going out every 5 days or something. We should be able to start tracking that data, but it should start covering every component that we do. So we know what the components are doing, whether it's what you would call an emergency ticket. Hey, we have a spill, we have a leak, we have a break. That's an emergency call, but it's still a work order at the end of the day. It's a common term for it. But it would apply to anything we're doing proactively. We're doing our PMs. We're going to go up on that roof every 6 months and touch that roof handle. We're going to do these 5, 8 items on that unit. It's going to be all that full gambit, the ground screws, the cycle of our mowing, the cycle of our oil changes on the mowers. That becomes part of a routine that we can track and do and make sure we are doing it and we don't forget it. I guarantee what happens in this process today is PMs are the first things to be sacrificed because you're busy. You don't have time to get to that belt change. It's running. I'll wait till it breaks and I'll get to it then. It's because of the sheer pressure to get everything else done. And it's hard to work with the building administration and try to start prioritizing different work when we can't say we need to get to that item and why. They're dealing with the issues that are in front of them right now and today. If we start working together with those folks, we can start building a better culture of understanding of why we need to maybe let that one sit for today. We'll go back to that tomorrow because parts are here, labor, everything's lined up. We have a lot of other things in place to deal with something. There's cost associated to that. That's all part of balancing the work order is just the end product, but the process involved from beginning to end is what we're really trying to manage.
Susan?
Hi, sorry, I have a few comments and questions. So, in addition to the staff, is it possible to get an org chart? And it doesn't have to be a detailed org chart, but I was even confused. Reassignment of facility manager, and I don't know how many facility managers there are, or custodians. I'd like to see kind of the balance of how the department is run at a very high level.
Yeah, go ahead.
And then comments. So as Debbie said, it's hard to take all this in. It's been a long night already. So I appreciate and really like the idea of processes that help us work smarter. I think we all do, and I do believe in the data, and although of course I'm always the person who has concerns about how are we upkeeping the data. I mean, as custodians was to stop and tell you what they did and write it down somewhere so they could do it. But, so I believe in the concept. I believe there's an opportunity to work smarter and not harder, and to become more efficient, and actually liked the facilities plan we approved and think it will be good for us over the long term. However, my concern about this is we are still a people business. Even the custodians are people and interact with other staff and with our students and all that sort of stuff. And so I get a little concerned that we're running everything based on this quantifiable chart that's supposed to tell us how much more money we're saving or things we're accomplishing and that sort of stuff, because there's a human element that I get concerned is missing from this.
Well, I'll just share, because I didn't talk about it, because I put a person's face up there, but it's how you measure that.
Right.
So I'm talking about the measurables, and within that measurable, you have to allow, that's why you don't map out to the nth degree of your 75% potential capacity. You're mapping out to the 60 as your target, because you know there is a fudge factor, for lack of a better way of saying it, and that's the human part. That's where you're going to have interactions, you're going to have that one-off, you're going to have the 5 minutes in the morning for whatever takes place in that particular school, that you're not worried about tracking that morning social, whatever happens, the coffee clutch thing that may happen. You're not worrying about that nth degree, and that's where I think the human factor is allowed to have the space, and it is part of it.
Thank you. So I just also ask that once we do get the presentation, if we can have an opportunity maybe to ask questions again, because the very high level to me,
yes,
we have to spend a lot of time with it. Listen.
Yeah, I just am curious, so when you were speaking, and again, this is just because not having it in advance, I'm not trying to like beat you up about that or anything, just it's hard to take in sort of what really we're supposed to be gleaning from this, for this meeting, but one of the things I heard you say was kind of like, this is a problem we can fix, or I'm trying to understand if you could maybe break it down for me, like what is there some sort of pervasive issue or problem that you're trying to focus on, that, because I'm not aware of what that is, and if you could help us understand what that is, and if this presentation was put together to help notify us of the problem,
It's not so much a problem, it's identifying a better way of operating our department, is what this is about. I guess the problem, that there is a problem, is our efficiencies, our effectiveness of what I've seen in my 9 months or so that I've been here so far. How I see us doing certain practices, I see how I see workflow happening in the buildings, how I see product being moved around, where things are stored, access to different parts of the building, we need to improve. There's just a lot of components about how we just go about our day and move around the facilities that we can work on and improve that. And that's what this is about.
So this is kind of like your assessment after being in the position for a certain period of time, and sort of your, here's what's working, here's maybe what's not working, here's where we can improve.
Yeah, I can give you a verbal assessment, a verbal vision of the org chart. We have a lot of facility management right now, which isn't bad, we always could use it. But given the state of our world, the state of what we have in need right now, we need to increase our security presence and management, given some of the just environment that we're in. So that's why there's a reshift of putting some more resources to that. And those two individuals go to the 12 months. The reassignment means one of our facility, we have 2 facility managers. One of those facility managers is going to go back and fill a open skilled maintenance position. They're going to go back into that position, so we aren't hiring for that position. That person goes back to that position. So that leaves you with one facility manager, and that person is going to get reassigned over both schools. That detail's going to be worked out how we're going to manage that, because it's going to put that person more in a true operational position, is what they should do, not so much into the purchasing of their supplies, purchasing of what they do to run their buildings. That's got to come out of their workload and go into more of this coordinator workload. And that coordinator workload is going to be more focused on truly in-house operations, building the procedures, building those processes as we identify them, so we can start getting them in place. That person's going to be a key component to help rolling it out to the building, working with the custodians, working with the maintenance staff, and how we're going to track documentation. Here's how you're going to be able to, we'll build the process around this cleaning, the time cycle. We're doing setups that aren't even being accounted for. They account for hours and hours a week that we hire custodians to clean, and they're not cleaning. It's not because they don't want to clean, they're getting tasked to do 15 hours a week of other duties. We got to capture that and find a way to solve that, or find a way to manage it better than what we're doing. Is that job sharing a little bit? Probably more in the maintenance role it might be. Bringing guys and ladies across back and forth from Highland Park in here. That's another thing we're looking at, is trying to utilize our resources, the skills that we have, better for both schools, not just 113 or just 112. If we have a skilled person that can do a certain task, let's use that resource in more places than just one school.
Okay, thanks.
So speaking of security then, was this, oh,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I looked that way.
I can go after you.
Okay. That's what it looks like. The security manager, so speaking about security, so how does that redefine or change the role of the security manager?
It doesn't necessarily change their job description per se.
Okay.
It just allows them, they're going to be here 12 months now.
Okay.
What that's going to do is allow us, on the leadership side, to better work on our procedures. That's one thing we were scrambling for in the summers, which I could tell just by what they're doing even on holidays and breaks.
Yeah.
We weren't getting, they didn't have to work those days. So, but we were still trying to cover them with sort of security with those. I mean, they're still trying to manage it from afar, if you will.
Yeah.
So there's procedures we got to work on internally to help those guys have time to right process, right procedure, and manage the summer school better. I say better in my definition, they're here. But I want to have us have more time to manage, incorporate more trainings in the summer with our staff, the CPI trainings, our potential ALICE training. There's going to be other things we're looking at incorporating into some different hours so it's not all in the school year.
Yeah.
That's the intent of those.
Okay, all right, thank you. Go ahead, sorry about that.
No problem. So in addition to questions that Stacy had about what is redefining, reassigning, all that, and wanting the organization chart, I did have a specific question, which was on that same slide with the redefining and reassigning. It talks about, I think you say that there was going to be no change in administrative staffing levels as of today. Can you tell me what the change has been in the past year?
There has been no changes. We currently have a director and 2 facility managers as far as administrative staff.
Because it seemed to be really stressed on the slide that it's, as of today, there'll be no changes coming up. So I didn't know about it from last year till now.
No, that's what it was this past year. That's what it will be going forward. So starting the next school year, I apologize if I misphrased that. So starting the school year next year, there will be a coordinator and then 1 facility manager versus 2 facility managers and the director. So you're kind of putting another tier in there of a person who's not necessarily the person responsible for construction, responsible for dealing with the trades folks. That's going to be your facility manager still. It's the coordinator is going to be more still about coordinating activities with the teams on the ground, helping focusing energy into their world, more so than just managing the trades and the construction stuff.
Okay. I think when we get the organization chart, that will help.
So essentially, it's the 3 on top, it'll be the 3 tomorrow. They're just different titles and different positions will be there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, John, for your presentation.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Okay, so we'll move on to approval of minutes. It's recommended the minutes be approved as listed. Special meeting April 12, 2018, and special meeting closed session April 12, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. No, you're the next one. Then it's recommended that the minutes be approved as listed. Regular meeting, April 16, 2018. Closed session 1, April 16, 2018. Closed session 2, April 16, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Okay, motion passes. And then we'll move on to discussion items. The first one is cooperative purchasing paper bid.
Good
Ali?
evening. So this is for our annual paper bid for next year. The way the pricing works is higher the quantity, better the price. I certainly don't encourage more use of paper. The more we can go paperless. However, what we do is that we approach different school districts, municipalities, and we do a joint bid to get a very competitive price. So based on the responses that we received, a contract paper group was the lowest bidder. Relative operating was the second lowest. However, in researching more about contracting paper group, the paper quality that they offered, and talking just to other school districts, they were having paper jamming issues. We certainly don't want that here. So the lowest responsive bidder is Relative Operating Company. We've used them in the past. We've checked their references at about $106,324.65. So that's
okay. Any paper purchasing questions?
So I asked about the co-op, if you will.
Yeah.
And just wondering if, first of all, I don't even know if it would save any more money if you went to a broader group, but assuming that it might. Specifically, like Highland Park and Deerfield and Riverwoods and Bannockburn, have we ever?
We certainly sent an email to most school districts, but not everyone is interested in forming a joint bid. So, but we certainly do that every year. So this year we, as stated in the document, we got Bannockburn, City of Lake Forest, Deerfield 109, North Shore 112, and our district, of course. So.
This is actually pretty consistent. This is the group that's been together with the paper bids for
Correct.
as long as I can remember. I mean, this group seems to go out together all the time
Yeah.
for paper. We haven't been able to add anybody, though. I don't know why. The city
Well,
of Highland Park.
again, it's all,
That's what I was saying, the city.
we can start the conversation, like I said, we sent an email out, it's an annual process where we can certainly, we have asked 2 other districts, they were not interested in doing the bid, so we can definitely ask more districts for them as well.
Yeah, no, I think we even have asked the city, but we asked the one year, but we did that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, well, we'll move on to referendum work dedication and plaques. Take your own.
Sorry.
Sorry, we're on mics here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the plaques have been finished. We're waiting for them to come. We're going to install them in the existing place that the temporary ones have been in. They're going to be covered, so we can, once I get it installed, we can then start talking about when and how we, Dr. Gibbons said, I have a dedication or another ceremony for the full new plaque.
And we have a date for the installation?
That's what I'm waiting. I just got word that they were done. That's what I'm waiting from Gilbane to get them physically installed.
Okay.
So I'm expecting that to be in the next week, 10 days, I'm hoping.
Okay.
Because they were completed a week, the end of this past week, they were done. So
okay.
If you're looking 2 weeks out or something, 3 weeks out, we should be able to start having that conversation now.
Okay, and then did we have a dedication in mind?
That's what we wanted to know what the board's feelings were, and that's not a discussion we've had yet with everyone, and what that would look like, or what the request is for dedication.
Okay. I think Debbie has something. Just looks like you do.
Considering I did send the email, I was wondering what happened to it, where were we on this, because when we did a large project many moons ago in 112, we had, and it was in a number of buildings, so we're talking the late 90s, when we did all those projects at buildings, we had dedications of all of the plaques. We invited the members of the board, the current board, and the members of the board that had been part of the members that were part of the board when the work was when it was voted on, when it was being done, and people that was board members, administration that were still around, that were still, unfortunately Harvey's not around, but alive, unfortunately, but those people, and we invited them to the ceremony. And we had a number of ceremonies because they were at many buildings. We're dealing with 2 buildings here, so it would be a little less cumbersome, but it would be, and the press was invited, and they were unveiling. So even though the plaques were there was an unveiling, and there was, just a nice ceremony. And I think because of some of the things that we talked about recently in our session about the Board of Education, as far as community, it was such a community-wide project, as far as the second effort to go out for the referendum and being successful, and how many community members participated in that. that inviting, you know, a celebration of the work that's done, and so many people have been happy about the work that's been done at both buildings and how beautiful they look and how the kids are enjoying it, that I think a celebration of it would be nice. So, I don't know, that's my vision. I don't know what other people feel.
I just think it's really important that we go and reach out to those. I mean, there were a lot of people prior to being on the board who worked on getting their friend and past and everything else.
Right,
I
those
can't really
groups.
speak to those people, but
Correct.
since I've been on board, the oversight committee,
Oversight
every person
committee,
on
yes.
that committee, every volunteer should be invited, as well as previous board members and administrators. So
And
we
I-
get us started to whatever it is we're thinking of doing, I would just reach out and make sure that they're aware.
And I know last year we had done, sort of had temporary plaques up and did an open house sort of where people could walk through. I mean, perhaps we do that again, because those weren't necessarily well attended, but just to have the opportunity again for the community to come in and kind of see the changes that were made and then see how it's being utilized even, a year later.
Even do it, I mean, I think that would be great, but as part of the celebration.
Right.
I think to do it all at the same time. So
Absolutely.
that everybody come together, so maybe make it on a day, obviously, maybe, when students are not present.
Right.
Because we don't want everybody walking, kind of like not having them as voting centers anymore.
Right.
I don't know when the kids are here, but.
Yeah, I would sort of tie the open house
Yeah.
to the dedication and invite all the people that you mentioned. So I think that's kind of the way, that sounds good. Any other thoughts?
No, we were just, we spoke about it and we wanted to not put this together ourselves. We wanted to give some ideas that the board members have for this, so that we can move forward and work on putting this together.
It would be nice if, as long as the plaques are there, if we could get it done for the end of the school year, because we certainly don't want to wait another year to recognize everyone who worked so hard on this. Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, we're going to move on to the DHS International Orchestra Field Trip to Italy. I'm not sure who's got that.
I can briefly state what they are, and if we have any questions on
Okay.
those. Ms. Anderson and Ms. Mahoney can work with us on answering those. But Deerfield High School will be sponsoring an international field trip to the cities of Milan, Verona, Venice, Florence, and Rome, Italy. The tentative dates for the trip are March 22nd, 2019 through March 29th, 2019.
Any questions from the board? Just your standard questions, Stacey.
Well,
Oh.
but, no, just that these, again and again, we get, since people there don't know, when we get these write-ups, we also get very often student and parent and guard and chaperone and staff recommendation letters and parents. And these, from a student perspective, are always incredibly, they're just incredible experiences for our students to be able to not only take their talents elsewhere, but to see the rest of the world. And yes, everything was put together in order of the things that we've asked for years. These are made by airline carriers, for the sake of security, financial aid for those who need it, especially because you do have the fine arts group to help support it. But whoever's writing these up now, the ones that are nice and easy.
Yeah. Did anyone else have any questions or comments?
You mentioned what the second trip is, if you want
Yeah.
to stay with that.
Mhm.
The second trip is an international trip for the choral program to Prague, Vienna, Budapest. Deerfield High School choral program will sponsor an international field trip to the cities of Prague, Vienna, and Budapest. The tentative dates for the trip are March 22nd, 2019 through March 30th, 2019. Again, the exec council team has reviewed these trip requests and all appears to be in order and prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any follow-up questions for the second trip? No? Okay, so we're going to move on to action items. Board of Education policies. It's recommended that the Board of Education adopt policy 4-65, 6-50, 6-140, 6-310, and 7-260 as presented. Is there a motion?
So
A second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. It is recommended that the board approve the license agreement between the Board of Education, Township High School District 113, and Highland Park Community Nursery School as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Lobby? Aye. Ms. Garlowski? Aye. Ms. Hyman? Aye. Ms. Meyer? Aye. Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Colfer?
Aye. Motion passes. Then it is recommended that the consent agenda be approved as listed. Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
Can we ask a question?
Sure.
So,
Well, after the motion.
Oh.
Sorry. Is there a motion? I don't know what to do. There's no motion.
Elena.
Oh, so, in a second? Okay. I actually did the report, or the bills. Met with Ali. Everything was in order. So that looks all good. So now we'll go to discussion. Gail.
well, I just thought that we should address Mr. Esker's question about Ms. Anderson's contract and why we're renewing it a year early.
I can begin addressing that. For key leadership positions in a district, it's not unusual for any district a year out, a year and a half out before someone is exiting to make sure that we retain talent and retain our core leadership team. Ms. Anderson is one of our most high-profile employees in the district, being a principal. Our principals, in my opinion, are our highest-profile leaders in the community. And with that position is a position that I fully support all of the work that Ms. Anderson has done here. The reason that districts generally will approve a contract, and I believe we've discussed this before as a board in private, is that you looked at a year and a half out because that's when someone else may begin looking if they are in a key position for those positions elsewhere. And so if taking Ms. Anderson out of the discussion, any of our key leadership positions that we want to retain high-quality employees, we are not going to take a chance on having that employee wait until next year to put a contract forth, because that employee will practice due diligence and begin looking for a position elsewhere, because the positions begin getting advertised in the early fall, and the late hires are this time of year. And so that is, if we are going to state on one hand that we want to retain administrators, because the vast majority of staff that have left have been our administrators. If we're going to state that we want to retain our talent and administrative staff, this is one reason that that contract has been put forth by me. It's been recommended, and also in discussion with Human Resources and the interactions Ms. Anderson has had with her team here at the school and in the school with staff and with the exec council.
Any further discussion? Elena?
I'm wondering, for those board members who have longer history, it was also brought up that typically they were not in the consent agenda, but I know that they discussed it for session before. Does So my question is, does this actually include like a change of process, or is it that the work and the opportunity to discuss was accomplished but in a different format?
We had typically done key positions not as the consent agenda, but everybody puts their agendas together differently, but we have done principals or key administrators as separate for recognition. It's, agendas are put together differently by different people, from board presidents to superintendents, and collectively between them?
Yeah, I just, this, of course, this has having nothing, with all due respect to Ms. Anderson or her performance or anything, because we don't even have the information or the data, to know what went behind this. But we got this powered board packet Saturday afternoon, and which is late for normally when we get our board packet, which has this information on it. And I was actually very surprised that something like this would be in the consent agenda, which basically just means, this is a very big decision. And as many of the people in the audience were talking about tonight, is that we are, accountable to all factions and community members, staff, students, everybody. So we can't, to me, it seems very difficult to put something like this in a consent agenda where it just kind of gets passed under. It's worthy of discussion, in my opinion. It's worthy of discussion, it's worthy of consideration, and also even just for our community, for the audience, for everybody to understand even why or how, because I think that's helpful information that Dr. Dignam just said. Well, we're doing this because we want to make sure she stays, we want to make sure she wouldn't go try to find another job. All of that is really relevant information that is absolutely not, you don't communicate that when it's in a consent agenda. So I don't know what the answer is, and I'm new. I'm playing the new card, but because I haven't really been a part of that many of these types of contracts, but I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. I think what Debbie said is people do agendas differently, but this just seemed, again, having nothing to do with how it would ultimately be voted on or having anything to do with Principal Anderson. It's just I think everybody really sort of needed some more information and more the ability to discuss it and inform everybody of how we're doing this and why.
Okay, so go ahead.
And I want to reiterate also, it's nothing reflective of Ms. Anderson's performance or any concerns as well. It's just, not really having had much time to look at the contract and being even newer than Lizzie.
Wow.
And even that, we got this climate survey and we haven't had time to look at it. I didn't know that it was in my email until I walked into this building tonight and then was handed the hard copy. So, I just feel like I'm in a pretty awkward position at the moment.
Okay, I'm going to kind of play both sides of the coin here, but also say one option, just so you know, is you can pull it from the consent agenda for now and vote on everything else and then come back to it, whether you want closed session, whatever. Lizzie did miss the last closed session, and there was some discussion. We didn't have a contract, but we did have some discussion about this. So,
and I listened. I listened to our last closed session. I listened. I watched the tape of the open session, and I listened to our closed session. So I'm very informed. But that's to me not enough.
Right. I know you had a question before.
Yes.
So I don't know exactly how to.
So I think you have to make,
yes. So to Debbie's point, the other thing we did, like now we put all the policies together for voting, and we didn't do that previously. So we had to make changes.
So there clearly needs to be discussion about this as far as what, if we want something of this nature in the consent agenda, so that's a discussion. It's in there right now, so there would have to be an amendment to today's consent agenda, and then see if the two people that made the motion would be willing to make that amendment. So would someone like to make an amendment to the consent agenda? Well, who's making the amendment and what is the amendment?
Friendly amendment to the motion that's been on the table, which is to accept the consent agenda.
To accept the consent.
The motion is to accept the consent agenda. The friendly amendment would be, you want to vote
To remove
the contract. To remove C, the approval of contract.
C from the consent agenda. And who seconded it? You accept the you accept the friendly amendment.
Sure. Put it out there.
Okay, so the new motion is for the consent agenda not to include Part C, approval of the contract. That's correct. Okay. So is there any further discussion? And my question is then, approval of Part C is then when presented? For today? Okay.
It could be separate for today, or it could be going separately to come back, but.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead with the amended consent agenda, including the friendly amendment. Is there any further discussion? Seeing there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Karlowski?
Aye.
Ms. Raymond?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Fick?
Aye.
Ms. Levy? Aye. Ms. Colbert?
Aye. Motion passes. So it is my understanding we want the Part C to be a standalone with some discussion? Or has the discussion been fulfilled with Dr. Dignam's?
Or does somebody want more discussion?
Right. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the 3-year employment contract of Deerfield High School principal? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? I don't understand what the problem is.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion?
You want further discussion?
What I'm asking is, would you prefer to not have it on the agenda this
Right.
evening, so there's further discussion in closed session regarding the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I believe we need further discussion and more time to discuss this.
Okay, so it's my understanding
More
that
information, and I think we were all just.
Part C of the consent agenda needs to be tabled and added to perhaps the next
Yes.
meeting. Okay, so
Soon I'll learn your facial stimulus.
so that is my understanding. We are tabling Part C of the consent agenda. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so then we're going to move on to citizens' comments. Are there any citizens' comments? And again, we will adhere to our 3-minute rule. Any citizens' comments? Yes, Joseph's coming in.
So actually, I'm back to apologize. The number I gave you earlier was wrong. It's not 1,400, it's 14,000 per year. Number second, I mean, this is not comment about your agenda. This is a comment about warrior way. You can see my back, respect. I feel like, I've been working here for 3 years. I feel like I have respect all the teachers. I have respect to all the students, but I don't feel being respected. Some teachers, a few teachers, and most teachers are very nice. A few teachers are impatient, rude, could be yelling at me for something I didn't do wrong. I do make mistake once in a while, but I believe I'm pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lavin?
Well, I applaud the board, Jerry Lavin, I applaud the board in removing that item from the consent agenda. This has nothing to do with Ms. Anderson. I've actually had, I think, maybe 2 very brief conversations with Ms. Anderson in her time here, and they've both been pleasant and under a minute each. So I'm not exactly in a position to say anything substantively about that. However, I would point out, Dr. Dignam said that it's not unusual for a year out from the end of the contract to secure the later contract. I just remind the board respectfully, Dr. Dignam was 2.5 years out from his contract, and a majority of the board, not a present majority, because that majority, I don't know if it exists anymore, extended that contract for 2 years and $40,000 retroactive and prospectively. Also, I'd point out that you obviously understand that someone with a contract in hand prospectively can use that as leverage to get a different job, maybe a higher paying job someplace else. I'm not suggesting at all that that's what Ms. Anderson or anyone else would do, but that's kind of the way the world works. Dr. Dignam said that, referring to the vast majority of the departures from the district have been administrators. That may be, but they did not leave because of a contract. They didn't leave because of money or job security. They left for some other reason. Nothing to do with extending a contract early. Absolutely nothing. Ms. Garlowski made a great statement. We don't have the data. She said, I watched the tape, I listened, and that, quote, that to me, there wasn't enough. I think the bigger problem here is, why was this even inserted? Why was this even snuck into something? And I really don't understand why you didn't get the board packet until Saturday, which is what someone had said, and this particular item was in there without further explanation. I wasn't even going to talk about that. I was going to talk about the facilities presentation. Let me just say quickly just a couple things about that. In my first life, I practiced law, bankruptcy litigation, and I had some experience in reading pro formas that went bad. There may be a problem here, but again, the question Ms. Garlowski asked was, maybe I'm missing something, but what is the problem? Was it in the presentation? The pro forma that I heard, what I heard tonight was really kind of a bare bones pro forma that someone with perhaps a business idea puts forward. But what I really heard was just a glossary of buzzwords. Where's the meat there? Where's the specifics on that? I think it's highly problematic when you make a presentation like that, which there may be a problem, but it's driven by a bunch of numbers, and as Ms. Meyer pointed out, where is the people in all of this? We can't lose sight of that. To me, what I heard tonight is mission creep. You want to answer some of the questions, introducing an operations coordinator. That's the $70,000 and $90,000 job that interviewing has been going on for that the superintendent apparently didn't know about that were happening, because that's what he had said to Mr. Esler and I. You're hiring an assistant for the district facility manager position, which was created for the referendum, whose work has been completed. So that's that one. The reassignment of the facilities manager, as far as I understand, this could be wrong, that has to do with eliminating the position of the building manager here at DHS. Okay, that's what that one is, as far as I understand. And the redefining of a facility manager, my understanding is you're going to take the HP facility manager and now give him DHS as well. I don't really understand what exactly is going on here. I think Ms. Meyer asked a great question. Where's the organizational chart? That would be very helpful to know. But to begin with, I'd like to know fundamentally, common sense, what is the problem? Otherwise, this to me looks like a solution in search of a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Hagman?
Yes, tonight the board received the DEA's climate study in open session, handed out openly to the board, and I respectfully request that this report in its entirety be included in the minutes. If you don't, we'll FOIA it, and we will raise hell if we don't get it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other citizens' comments? Yes.
It's just a simple comment. In
Can you
certain
just
other meetings.
introduce yourself? I'm sorry.
Sure, Bob Weiss. My son is a high school student, 2 have graduated from Highland Park. Quick question, and that is, with all of the questions that have been brought up by the teachers and members of both communities, when do you guys actually answer those questions? And do you present them back to the people who asked them in an organized fashion, or do they just leave wondering and frustrated?
Thank you. Do we have any other citizens' comments? What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, yes, so to answer your question, sorry. As we say in the beginning, for non-agenda related items, they'll either be responded to, I'm not sure. Okay, and then either in the next board meeting they'll be addressed, or we are able to reach out to the person who made the comment and follow up. So we're going to move into closed session. It's recommended the board move into closed session to consider information regarding the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district and legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony and a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against the legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. Litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be reported and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and the placement of individual students in special education programs and other matters relating to the individual students. Is there a motion? Second? Second. Roll call, please.
Ms. Galowski? Aye. Ms. Herman? Aye. Ms. Meyer? Aye. Ms. Vick?
Aye.
Ms. Albee? Aye. Ms. Colbert?
Aye. Motion passes.